This also comes down to having those foundations really set of like, you can take all the supplements you want, but if you're really stressed out because your lifestyle sucks, you can't out-supplement a crappy diet.
That's true. That's true.
So I think that has to be really understood from people, because I think so many people are under this impression as you just take a pill for the ill or you take a supplement to nourish a deficiency, but like your lifestyle also very much drives deficiency. Your nervous system very much drives deficiency.
That is a hard truth to hear. Can we just stop there for a minute? That is a hard truth to swallow. Sometimes I'll say, with love, of course, and I know that you're saying this with love as well. It's like the results that you want is in the work that you're avoiding, and I will often talk about that in the context of the gym. It's like people will say, but I'm going to the gym 4 times a week. I'm like, you're not approaching muscle failure. If your muscles are not, like, there are other things that we've been talking about that can contribute to that. But if you have been working out 4 times a week and you're not seeing any change after 6 months, 7 months, 9 months, there's a problem with the protocol.
Yeah.
And I think that the same is true here. Like our tendency, so many, even, I know there's a lot of practitioners that listen to the show, and, we sort of, sometimes there can be this, how will I categorize it? There's this like, I'm so much better than the allopathic sort of model. But then we say, oh, you're low in vitamin D. You know what you should probably take? Some vitamin D. So we're just doing the same thing. You're just like a pill for every ill. It's like, oh, you're low in this thing, and we'll just give you the supplement. So you're just changing the word medication for supplementation. It's essentially the same thing. We're not really sort of looking at this person holistically. And I don't think many of us, even as practitioners, I mean, I've coached so many of them, like we really are terrible at taking care of ourselves,
Yeah.
Which is why many of us become doctors. It's because we're like, we are going to help, we want to help serve, we want to help heal some maybe hole in our own hearts and our own souls. But so many people, including the practitioners that you're seeing, if you're not a practitioner, you're just a Betty listening to this, also struggle with managing stress, setting boundaries, metabolizing the maltreatment that you sustained maybe as a child or a young, adult. We all struggle with it. We're all, unfortunately or fortunately, part of the human race, right? It's like we're all very, very similar. We're more alike than we are dissimilar.
For sure. And I think that it comes down to capacity. Like if your nervous system, if you want an 80% life, but your nervous system capacity is at about 10%, the universe is going to go, God, dancing Alice, spaghetti gods, whatever, whoever you believe in, it's just going to go, okay, we're going to give her 20%. But then your nervous system can't hold 20%, right? So you start to kind of wig out. So we have to kind of understand that expanding that nervous system capacity is not going to be a fast thing. It's a slow thing. So if you're someone like myself who's like A-type and you're, perfectionist type tendencies, you're like, but I want it and I want it now. It doesn't work that way. And so I think often with the stress component that depletes our minerals and our vitamins in our system that we're just trying to out-supplement is to understand the value of feeling through your emotions and also speaking to that inner child who's doing its absolute best to protect you based on a nervous system response, this neuroception that occurs when there's something that triggers you in this lifetime to show you where you are not free in this life, that's triggering you. If you are just overworking, or you go and you grab a drink, or, you go into the scroll hole on social media to distract yourself from feeling through it, it doesn't matter what supplement you take to be able to support that, because your immune system is always going to drop, because cortisol absolutely can be very corrosive in the system, and ferritin levels will continue to drop because your body is always trying to pull for everything to support it. I always say to people, like, you want to know how your nervous system state is? Just say to yourself, if I'm rushing for it, I'm probably not ready for it. It's just the truth. If you're rushing for something, you're probably not ready for it, because your intention is like, I gotta have it, and it's. But why? What is the intent? Right? Like, sure, there might be looming deadlines, etc. But like, if you're rushing for it, you have to question the state of your nervous system. And your state of your nervous system, of course, it's supported through things like protein consumption and mineral status is really, really important, right? Which is like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today. But absolutely, you're going to be fighting deficiencies again and again and again if you don't actually work through that emotional, psychospiritual aspect to this journey. And I actually don't believe anybody needs to heal. I know that is a very unpopular opinion, but I just don't believe it. I think that we have created this absolute massive obsession with healing, where women are like, I gotta heal. And I'm like, but what does it mean about you as a person that you need to heal. It means you probably have a subconscious belief that you're broken. How on earth are you going to build anything from a cracked foundation? It doesn't make sense. It's not to denounce the efforts you take to heal, to eat right, to supplement, to work out. But this isn't so much of a journey of healing as it's more of an act of self-love and coming back home to yourself, right? Like, what happens if you had little to no sleep? Are you going to drive yourself back in the gym because you're hustling for your enoughness? Or are you going to go, okay, maybe I don't actually go as hard in the gym today. Maybe I actually just adjust my workout. Maybe I actually focus on getting more steps today, right? It's about adjustment and fluidity. And I think that if women actually understood that more, they probably would end up being more healthier as a result. It's why I take a lot more people off supplements than I care to admit, because their work isn't in the next parasite protocol per se. It's about doing a lot of that foundational and deep work first before they could even be prepped and primed for the rest of it.
Man, that is the medicine. That is the medicine. That is the medicine. And I always tell women who maybe they'll ask me on social media, or I'm coaching cohorts or whatever. It's like, what do I do now? It's like, what do you think you should do now? I hold the premise. I think you also hold this philosophical premise. It's like, you already know what to do.
Yeah.
You already, like, in the infinite wisdom of your body, if you just quiet the pressure and the noise coming from your brain, like all the algorithms and the plans and all the things and the 8-week boot camp, all the, you just quiet that and you just ask yourself what you need. She will tell you.
Yeah. And even to be able to just self-soothe. It's if you grew up where you had a parent who didn't know how to emotionally regulate properly, there is
all of us, which is all of us.
Of course, because they were doing the best they could with the knowledge that they had, right?
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is that becomes very difficult for a lot of us who end up growing up as adults who are trying to prove our self-worth, right? Constantly thinking that nothing is enough, whether it's in our business or whether it's in our health. We're just chasing this enoughness. We're chasing this destination consciousness. And it comes down to the separation that occurs, early on in life, where we have our true, amazing, limitless self, that cute little baby burrito that you were at the very beginning, to this version of you, of this disassociated identity that was created. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. And that is essentially what drives so much patterns and behaviors in individuals, that's where the ego comes in to be able to prove, see, you fell off this plane. See, you're not worthy enough. And it just creates this like underbelly of stress that just keeps permeating in the background. And it's not saying that, like, I love this saying that I heard, which was, your suffering is real, but it's not true. It's not true because it's just not based on facts. It's based on this concocted version of who you think you are.
It's a story. Yeah, it's a story that you're telling yourself.
Ultimately, that's really where it comes down to. So, I mean, like, listen, there's tons of things you can do for your deficiencies and stuff. Like, we spoke about, optimal ferritin levels, and, vitamin D should, all these ranges that we have, as are outdated. They're like outdated from like 50, 60, 70 years ago. They're based on men, and they're extremely broad. So like vitamin D, for example, is like 60 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. If a woman's getting her thyroid checked, she shouldn't just be doing TSH because that's a thyroid stimulating hormone. It's not even a thyroid hormone. You want your free T3 levels. You want your free T4 levels. You want your thyroid antibodies, like your thyroid peroxidase antibodies, your thyroglobulin antibody. Like, those things are important. But remember that we don't address paper. We address people. Right. So it's extremely important. Like I was saying earlier in the podcast, is that T3 is not even in the blood. It's intracellular. So when you're getting blood work done and you're like, oh, I have low T3. I mean, sure. But we have to always also rest our laurels that we're speaking to a person on the other end of the screen, or in front of us if you do in-person practice. But a lot of their makeup is extremely important in the overall discussion. And women who have Hashimoto's in particular, and this drives me insane, is that they chase this, like, I got to reduce my antibodies narrative because I must be in remission, because if I don't lower these antibodies, I am technically a failure. This is driving this underbelly of pattern that they've had for a long time ago. This is not about their antibodies, I'll tell you that much.
This is it's so well articulated, Melissa. I think that is so true because everybody wants to get to the finish line and say, look, I put it in remission, right? Everyone wants the destination. It's like you were saying, like that anxiety of like, I just want it right now. It's like, all right, you're not ready for it right now. You have to sort of go through the process of becoming the person that can now put those autoantibodies in remission.
Yeah. And even that, I think people have to understand how the immune system works. Like if you're taking, like you have your two branches of your immune system, right? I'm doing this little seesaw act if you guys are listening on audio, but like there's T1 and there's Th1 and Th2. Now, so for example, if somebody is at a place with their practitioner and they're taking iodine supplementation, it can actually lower one of those branches. And if it does, it can actually tend to, at first, sometimes increase antibodies, and in some cases, it can lower antibodies. In other cases, if there's immune suppression, like for example, someone moves into a home and the winter comes on and we've closed all the windows and the home has mold. Well, your antibodies can actually decrease. And this is kind of surprising to some people because it can actually suppress antibody production. So some people will be like, I'm in remission. I go, but are you? So I think in my opinion, and even like if you look at Dr. Datos Karazian's work, who's a pretty, I call it the forefather of like thyroid health,
Yeah, he's been on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you need a healthy immune system to even produce antibodies in the first place. Yeah. So this drive to be able to lower thyroid antibodies, I think is a little problematic in some ways because they're chasing this like wheel of like lower thyroid antibodies to be in remission when remission is not necessarily like your antibodies are at normal. Remission also is like, what does the rest of your labs look like? How do you feel, right? Like I feel better at 46 years old than I did at 26 years old and I still have antibodies, right? Does that mean I'm a failure? Hell no, I feel fantastic. I'm working out 3 times a week now where I couldn't do it before because I finally cracked this mineral code that we've been talking about. I finally cracked the understanding of how my emotional patterns are driving my health situation, which previously I was trying to out-supplement like many of the women that I work with.
Right.